to Valley Rat Chat. Tonight, this is the last podcast reminiscing about Leavealle McCampbell Middle School. I think I've about talked it to death, but I hope that you have enjoyed the series and we'll move on to something else next week. I like to think about people that have moved away and just want another little slice of home. I hope it warms your heart and puts you in a good frame of mind. I want to do a series on LBC Middle School. Now, I'm at a bit of a loss on that one because I didn't attend there. And also, it's still an active school. So for security and safety reasons, I'm not going down there to do a bunch of filming. I might get one shot of the front of the building and one shot of a ball field, but that's it. Now, I'm going to need your help on this one. So if any of you have any stories about LBC high school or middle school, be sure to get those emailed in to us at horsecreeklegacy@gmail.com. I hope to conduct some interviews as well from alumni, so hopefully we can get that out at some point in the future. Announcements. Be sure to visit the Horse Creek Midland Valley Historical Museum. They have a new display. It's a handcrafted diorama of the Seminole Mill in Clearwater. The ladies were working very hard to get that set up, so be sure to stop by there and say hello and check out the hard work someone put into this nice display. Don't forget about the 18th Annual Historic Beach Island Tour, Saturday, April 25th, 2026, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is sponsored by the Beach Island Historical Society, Inc. Discounted tickets are available in advance. They are $5 off of the regular price. Also, senior citizens get discounted ticket prices. Regular price tickets will be the day of. A barbecue lunch will be available for purchase. More information is found on www.beachislandhistoricalsociety.com. Channel updates this week. I received the media mod for the GoPro, tested it out on a video that I did this past weekend. Worked great, so I'm happy with that. And I also bought some cordless microphones so that I can do some interviews for Valley Rat Chat. So real excited about that. Looking forward to using those. I have a really nice video I've been working on all week, and I can't wait to get that posted, but I have to get permission from a historical association before I can do that. It's very important to always get permission for filming, posting, photos, and anything that you use in your videos. I had a photo sent to me from the 1950 yearbook, and it would have been Graniteville High School at the time. But I thought this was really neat. Thanks for sending that in. If anyone else would like to share photos of anything historical in the valley, let us know. I do want to say this. We had excellent teachers coming through school, and this was public school in the 70s and 80s. What we learned in school then is what every generation after us had to pay for to go to college to learn. We got it for free. My generation is the last generation that could leave high school and go straight into a career. Our technology school offered things like machine shop, automotive, cosmetology. I mean, you could leave those classes and get your certification and go straight to work. There were a lot of news events that happened while we were in middle school. One thing that we had was the first time that we had ever seen it was a partial solar eclipse. That was in 1985. And then in 1986, it seared into my generation's brains. I mean, it is tattooed on there. And that was the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. My generation has really seen a lot of disasters. I mean, think about it. We grew up in the 70s and the 80s. We saw 3 Mile Island. We saw the Bhopal, India disaster. We saw Chernobyl. That was scary. That was really, really scary. We saw the space shuttle, both space shuttle disasters. We lived through the ending of the Cold War. That was scary. And that's just stuff that was the 70s and 80s, let alone everything that's happened since then. So we have a lot of history that we need to talk about and preserve. And that's, the biggest reason why I'm doing this channel. Our grandkids and posterity can see what we lived through. Oh, the biggie, the fall of the Berlin Wall. And, I can barely remember that. And that was major geopolitical change that came. But I do remember David Hasselhoff, and every time I see him singing on that Berlin Wall, that puts chills all over me, even to this day. We had a really big event at school one year. I don't remember what grade I was in. One day, the entire school walked from the school to the stadium because we were having field day. So if you leave Leavealle McCampbell and walk towards Gregg Street, a lot of people don't know that there is another street behind Gregg Street to the east called Hester Street. It's just a residential street that has some of the blue houses on it. And we crossed the Gregg Street, turned left down Hester, and it took you straight into the driveway to the stadium. We spent all day at the stadium for field day. What was so special about it was they allowed us to bring our boom boxes. Now in the 80s, this was a really big deal because if you did not have a boom box, you were just not with the crowd. They were called boom box, ghetto blaster, jam box. They came in all shapes and sizes, and whoever had the biggest boom box was the winner, I guess. The winner of that competition, his name was, and his boombox was so big that he had to carry it with a strap around his body. I mean, the thing was like 3 foot by 2 foot. It was a walking stereo. There was no competition there. We had the most fun at field day. The teachers were competing in different little silly competitions out on the field, like relay races and things like that. And then the students could also sign up for different events. We all brought our lunches, snacks to get us through the day since we were going to be there all day long. Well, my mama fixed me a big bowl of fried chicken because I was just carrying on about, I want fried chicken, and she cooked it for me. I was so proud of that big bowl of chicken. It was enough to eat off of all day long. Needless to say, I was a little bit center of attention because everybody kept coming over there to see if they could sweet talk me into a piece of chicken. We had an event to participate in, so myself and a friend went to do that while people were guarding my bowl of chicken. Well, when we came back, we found these two jokers that had got into the bowl of chicken and was helping themselves, which was really okay. It was more funny than it was anything. Guys, y'all owe me some chicken. I had a lot of other photographs from field day, but I don't know where they've gone over 40 years, but for some reason, I had this one. Anyway, this one right here, he was always so funny, and for whatever reason, he really, really, really wanted this to leave. I don't know what ever did to him, but we had a really good time. When we were in 7th grade, I believe it was, our biology class, we were required to do dissections. Everybody had to go through Mr. class, and that was the teacher that we had when we were doing our dissecting. Everybody liked Mr. and he was famous for his corny jokes. The dissecting lab was on the 3rd floor at the back of the building at the stairwell. And you always knew when a class was dissecting because you could smell the formaldehyde and chemicals. We were required to dissect an earthworm, a bullfrog, and a little pig. Now, the earthworm, you would think, what in the world are you going to get out of that? But it was really fascinating. Some dreaded that class and some looked forward to it. And you got used to it after a while and it just became really fascinating. Oh boy, the powder puff football game. This is when the girls got to play football. This was one game every year, and whatever girls wanted to play could sign up. I don't know what in the world ever possessed my crazy mind to sign up for powder puff football, but I did. I think I did it because my best friend was doing it and she asked me to. And you can't tell your best friend no in middle school. So I went. I didn't know anything about football. And I didn't have to pay attention during the practice. I was just doing it for fun and just thought everybody else was out there doing it for fun too. Until we lined up on that line of scrimmage, and then I realized some of these girls were playing for real. So that night at the game, it was my turn to go out on the field. I won't ever forget facing off against a girl named, was playing for keeps. That whistle blew and the play started and knocked the taste out of my mouth. I mean, she hit me like a ton of bricks, and that's when I realized, oh boy, we're really playing football here. That was the last and only play that I was in during that game, and I'm glad because, whoo boy, she knocked me silly. I want to talk about the home ec room. So this was on the first floor. It wasn't in use when I was in middle school, but we did use it for special events or activities that you were doing as a class. This room was a holdover from when it was a high school. Now, for those of you that don't know, there used to be a class held in high school called home economics, and it would teach future homemakers how to do things like cook, sew, how to run a household, basically. I don't know why that's not a required class today because everybody needs to know how to cook. Very practical. Anyway, I loved this home ec room at the old Leavealle McCampbell School. It had 3 full kitchen stations. As a group, you could go in there and learn how to cook. We actually did that with one of my classes. I can't remember what class it was. We went down there and cooked something. I can't even remember what it was. And then the other half of the room was where you learned how to sew on sewing machines, which is a very practical skill. Now, if you've never sewn on a sewing machine, I highly encourage you to acquire that skill. Anybody can learn how to sew, and it doesn't have to be things like you would normally think about, like quilts or clothing. There's so many practical applications, such as making car seat covers, things like that. So it's very practical, very good skill to know. And it also teaches you math, specifically fractions. So if you're a homeschooler, there's a good practical way to teach fractions. There was a dilapidated auditorium, and I think that was on the 2nd floor. I can't remember if it was the 2nd or 3rd floor because of my dusty brain. It's only been 40 years. Anyway, it was an underutilized space. They did have the computer lab in there, which was at the very bottom near the stage. I hope they went back and did something with that space because it was a nice space. It just needed to be updated. When we were growing up, I don't know if they still have this or if it's even a thing. We had to do book reports. Well, you could go to the bookstores back then were Walden Books. I can't remember what the other one was. There was another bookstore, but Walden Books was the main one. And they had a special rack of little thin booklets, and they were called Cliff Notes. Well, the Cliff Notes would summarize classical works of literature, and it was just like an outline and a summary, and you could go get those Cliff Notes and read through that and be able to do a book report. Now, I never did that because I didn't think the Cliff Notes were detailed enough, but that was a thing, and people would go get those Cliff Notes and do book reports off of it. I was always a bookworm, and I was just going to read everything I got my hands on anyway. I absolutely loved the library at Leavealle McCampbell. I love libraries in general. I fell in love with libraries when the Aiken County Library was housed in the Banksia House. I think it was the house that I fell in love with, but either way, it gave me a love for libraries. The Leavealle McCampbell Library took up a good portion of the first floor, the back side of the first floor. They had a South Carolina room. You had to get special permission to go into the South Carolina room because it was all reference material. A group of friends and myself worked in the library. It was really fun. I can't remember when they refinished the gym floor. I think it was between 6th and 7th grade. I'm not sure. They may have done it before we got there in 6th grade. Oh, by the way, I didn't even mention this. The middle school at the time was 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. So you only went to either Leavealle or LBC for 3 years before you went to Midland Valley. They completely refinished the hardwood floor at the Leavealle McCampbell gym. And our football team at the time were called the Rocks. So it was the Rocks Gymnasium. It was really pretty, and they were particular about what kind of footwear you wore in there on that hardwood floor. We had another really big event while I was at Leavealle McCampbell, and that was Heart Day. I think that was 8th grade when we did that. The student council, they blew up all these red balloons. There was like 2,000 balloons. It was crazy. And every balloon had a tag on it that had the address of the school. And it was a really big event, and we were going to set all these balloons off. And it was really fun. I won't ever forget Mr. Crosby had dressed up in this giant foam heart. It was so funny looking. And he had on these red tights underneath it. I did have a photo of it. I don't know whatever happened to that over time. People from somewhere far off, I forget where it was, found one of our balloons with a tag and called us to let us know that they had found it. You can't do that kind of stuff now. Marching band practice. Now this was really fun. Our band director at the time, she was talented to be able to teach people how to play a musical instrument. I mean, starting from zero, we had to learn how to read music, how to learn how to play the instrument. It was really something else. That was a job, and it took some talent to be able to do that. We had 2 parades that we had to march in for Christmas. We had the Graniteville Parade, and then we had the Langley Parade. Now, there's a lot that goes into marching band that people don't think about. You have to either memorize the music, or there's a thing called a lyre that you can stick onto your instrument, and they're all different for the different instruments depending on how you have to hold the instrument. But it's a little thing that you can fasten to either your arm or the instrument that holds small sheets of music. So you had to do one of those 2 things. In middle school, they allowed us to use those lyres, but in high school, you better darn sure have that music memorized. I'll talk more about high school marching band when I do a podcast about Midland Valley High School. You have that part of the marching, then you have to literally learn how to march and stay in sync with everybody, which isn't as easy as it appears to be. Then you have to think about you're playing an instrument and you're walking 2 miles down the road while you do this. Well, there's a process to it. You'll play, stop and rest, play, and then you'll just march to a cadence. So it's back and forth. You get a little bit of rest time. But we had to practice all of that and get that figured out before we actually went to the parades to perform. So Miss would have us march up and down, practice marching on that little street that split the middle of the campus. We'd march up and down and back and forth. I know all those houses around there had to get tired of hearing middle school kids with horns. That's how we learned how to march in the parades. All right, this is funny, but I wanted to talk about it. So my parents I needed a notebook, and my mom went and bought some notebooks for me. Well, they were not normal notebooks, and I'm saying that because this was a new thing at the time. They had perforated the pages so you didn't have to tear it from the spiral, but from the perforation. It kept all the little trash pieces from falling. And that was a new thing at the time, and I really liked that. But I don't think my mom really thought about it when she picked up the notebooks, but the name of the notebook, because of the way it tore from the perforation, it was called The Big Rip-Off. Now, can you imagine being a middle school student and you're carrying around a notebook that says The Big Rip-Off? I did everything in the world to cover that up. I colored it out with Sharpie. I tried to put stickers on it, but they wouldn't stick because the cover was made out of some kind of plastic. Oh, that was just shameful as a preteen. 8th grade prom. Oh my goodness, this was the event. We had never had any kind of fancy dance like that at the middle school. And when I was in the 8th grade, they decided they were going to have a formal 8th grade prom. Some people went completely all out with this and went full formal, just like it was a junior-senior prom. There were tuxedos and some girls there with big hoop skirts on. It was fun. Well, my core group of friends, we all decided we were going to get together, go out to eat, and then go to the prom together. So there was a group of I think there were 8 of us. We were going all out. We went to EJ's, and we sat in the round corner booth at EJ's. That was really fun. I miss EJ's. They had the best salad bar in the world. Then we all rode to the prom together. Well, that's all I have as far as reminiscing memories of Leavealle McCampbell Middle School. Like I said, please comment below with your memories, and if you have any photos you'd like to share, you can email those to us. Thank you for listening. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share to Horse Creek Legacy. And until next time.